the pleasure of being here with Kiko Loureiro today. It's a pleasure having you here. How are you doing? Let's start with
My
there.
pleasure, my pleasure. It's a great day because I have the time to have nice local food and also some sightseeing as
Amen.
well. And now we came here. I have a guitar clinic in an hour.
Beautiful.
So yeah, yesterday was great because we have a guitar competition for the first time here. It was great, and I was so impressed by the level of everyone.
Oh,
we have
yeah.
like 10 candidates, and so good, so good. I was really impressed. So
That's beautiful.
yeah.
Is it your first time here? Is it in Saudi
First
Arabia?
time, yes, first
and
time.
the Arab world in general?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Well, we're lucky us in
Yes,
that case. Cheers. Well, okay, I was saying actually before we started rolling, I was so excited to interview you because getting into music, because I'm a music producer, and I remember one of the things that really got me into this world was metal, to be honest. So I've been following you for a while. I've been following...
Thank you.
And so I think this is a really cool chance to ask you some questions and also keep it relevant. The first question I guess I wanted to ask you was, so I know you were born in Brazil.
Yes.
And I know that you started your career in Brazil.
Yes.
And I heard you mention before kind of that it's a little bit more difficult to start up in a place like Brazil because based on what you said, there's a little bit less infrastructure, there are fewer opportunities. And that's something that we on this side of the world really, really feel because we're in a music industry that's just starting. So I kind of wanted to start off with like how things started for you because you reached unbelievable heights despite those challenges.
Yeah. First of all, when I started, I was not thinking, that I could, be here today, and it was just a passion for music, first of all, that let me go through all the difficulties, of a society that doesn't accept that kind of music, or being a musician is not a profession, a profession. What are you gonna do of your life, kind of thing, when you're a teenager. Also, to get instruments was difficult when I started. I mean, we had the local manufacturers, but we didn't have access to, because also many years ago we didn't have the internet, so it was not as today. But in Brazil, it was even harder. You have no closed market, no imports, so everything had to be produced in Brazil. So we didn't have much stuff of good quality instruments or pedals or amplifiers. But but you have the rich Brazilian music, I could say, which is a beautiful music, just like here. So rich and multicultural. So I think this helped me later on, to find my own voice, my style, etc. So in the early, I kind of, when I started my career was when the market was opening, for imports, and also, so I kind of. I was,
the timing also.
The time was helped me. Yeah, helped me. I could say maybe if I would be 10 years older, it would be completely different. My career,
I completely understand that. You mentioned something that kind of just stuck in the back of my brain, also because it resonates with us a lot. But you're saying that kind of music wasn't really accepted in Brazil. So it's not really, or is it just the fact that being a musician was a little bit of a tough ask?
Well, being a musician, of course, and playing metal is even worse. Like or you're going to be a percussion player in Brazilian music that also is and then like playing guitar. They're like, do you want to play guitar metal? And do you want to sing in English? Like, it's like, what a stupid idea, what are you going to do with your life, kind of thing.
Understand.
So, but then the passion, and finding the other guys that had the same passion for, and we had that idea. It was a common idea between our group of friends that we liked metal, the international bands. We respected and liked a lot and studied the Brazilian music, our national music, and we love the classical music, or like study music, or like more deeper connection with music. So everybody was excited to make this blend of the international music, metal, with the dragons and the castles and the European, all this thing, or like the New York or California influence, the guitar players as well, the rock and roll and blues and all that, with the Brazilian music.
See, it's really cool that you say that, because I've always felt that metal specifically is a musician's genre. You know what I mean? Like it's about it's not really always about creating the perfect pop accessible song. It's about a song where your technicality is as important as your creativity.
Yes.
Which I feel like, based on what you're saying, is like it's even like pushing your niche in a little bit more. So I feel like opportunities might be a little bit difficult to come by unless you create them yourself. And you're saying that to a certain extent you were struggling, or people weren't as supportive, let's say, of the idea. So what kind of pushed you to continue? Because passion can only take you so far.
Exactly. No, I think like back then, I'm talking about when I was 19, 20 years old, and I was not sure I wanted to be a musician because of the society. So I started doing the biology university. So I did for 2 years biology university, and in the great university, the best university of Brazil. So I was like, okay, that's my safe bet, But at the same time, I was rehearsing and taking guitar lessons, and with that passion of playing, but I was also practicing music to be a musician or any kind, because I thought, that can be a profession. Maybe I can play with a famous artist, kind of, a pop famous artist is a way for musicians. And then I did that when I was 18, 19. I did play with 2 different artists. So I got some money to buy guitars and strings and stuff like that, right? So, but then always continuing my dream with my friends from Angra, the band, and also taking lessons and listening and buying albums, etc., and keeping the passion for metal. And then at some point we got a deal with a Japanese record label back then that put us on the map somehow. We were able to record our first album and then start making small concerts and then evolve from there.
You brought up Angra first, so I'm going to follow up on that, because before we get actually into the band, but there's I guess one of the things that I really see in your music is that it's really hard to define you as a genre. I feel like you bring in so many influences, and you mentioned them yourself, whether it's from from Brazilian culture or from what you see from around the world, and I guess one of those questions is like, when you're writing, whether it's for Angra, whether it's for I know you also wrote for Megadeth over the last 2.5 years. Do you kind of have an idea of who your audience is? Because or are you writing something that's, look, this is what I want to express, this is the story I want to tell? Because you've done so well and you've reached such an audience that sometimes I wonder what you're thinking about when you're writing, because it's your compositions like have that in there.
A great question. I mean, in the beginning, I think you just follow what you like. So we liked some metal bands. There was a band called Queensryche, was from Seattle. Like really, they're great musicians. And then also Queen, because Queen, had some rock and roll, some classical, very open as well. Some rock bands that are like pretty open, progressive rock bands. That was that mindset. And also the Brazilian music is very plural as well. Yeah. So we like to mix those things. And we thought that would be a thing to find that combination would be unique. But if we didn't have like a record company or some manager or something like for kind of guiding us, so we did what we wanted. So, but the first album we had a German producer. He kind of put us a bit more Germanized in a way, like more Halloween kind of bands like that, more power metal, because we were young, and then it was good to do that because we got into a certain box.
Direction. Yeah.
The second Angra album is way more open because he in this Holy Land, the producer, understood, okay, those Brazilian guys wants to do metal with Brazilian connection, and then he had to open up to understand. So he knew us from the previous work, so was more open.
Fantastic.
Because also when you have a producer or even a label, etc., you have also to bring your vision to them, to the managers, to the label. Look, that's what we believe. And then if you're good in selling your idea, they might go with you, because they want something special as well. Yeah. They want to have a band that is bringing something new because they have already their catalog with several equal bands. Yeah. So if you bring something different, you sell well the idea, you can make it. So I think people from Saudi, they can mix. I believe, seeing what's happening here, at the XP, and it's like so clear that you can make this fusion somehow. It can be, then you measure if it's 5% fusion or like 25%. You find your way. Some songs more, some songs less, and then you have the world for you.
That's so interesting. I'm just dropping bars here. So was that studied on your end? Because I feel like the progression, you said something that's really cool. Like, it was great that we put us in the box, but you always knew you kind of wanted to open it up.
It's a development. It's like, as a person, you develop yourself and you learn things, you experience things, and you evolve as a person.
Exactly.
As a band, the same. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna fight for my idea. You know what? The producer was right. Let's keep it a bit more metal, this thing.
Yeah.
So you find what, you just survive, and then you figure out. In Megadeth that I wrote songs, I wrote, I don't know, like 11 songs, co-wrote, not all mine. Participation in 11 songs. Then it was different because I had to understand. So I'm studying the band, the catalog, the history. I'm looking at the fans. Then I have a lot of data, let's say, to understand. And I'm a fan as well. And I grew up listening to Megadeth. So I have my own version of Megadeth. I have a vision from outside, and I can bring this vision from outside to inside and say, you know what? This is not Megadeth anymore, or this is Megadeth. Oh, that's the coolest way of, so it can help the ones that are there in the Megadeth world already to a vision from outside.
That's so cool, man.
So mainly when you have a band like Megadeth for 40 years, you also evolve as a band.
I have to ask you about this because so the thing about, you were with Angra for 23 years, if I'm not wrong. It's 92 to 2015.
Yeah.
So you've built an identity for a project, and you were doing your solo thing on the side. So there's, I feel like you're saying to yourself, you develop and you develop and you develop and you develop, and then you end up, as an established musician. You have an established band. I think you co-founded Angra, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And so you have a baby, and then you have your own solo career, and then you go to something as that's called commercially accessible as Megadeth. It has its history and
inside the style, right?
Of course.
Megadeth is not Jay-Z or
no, but I feel like the reason I'm talking about it is,
I understand.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it has a different identity.
It's under a major label. The big three labels. Is touring with the best and the top promoters, etc. It is
exactly.
It's a league inside the style,
and it brings in expectations. Is what I would expect. So, was it difficult to bend to that? I would ask. I mean, because I feel like you've established so much, and then you're having to change that. Although you kind of mentioned your process in such a beautiful way, but I wonder if personally was that a difficult process to kind of adapt to?
I think it's challenge. You have to adapt because you're coming to a new place. You have your house now. You're like somebody else's house. You cannot come and complain about I don't like the blue walls or something. You have to be like, okay, that's my new place. How I can bring value to this new place.
Okay,
I think that's the way you think. Like, I can add this. I can learn a lot. So what is the ROI of the situation? Other the return you can get. Like, you can bring a lot to the table, and you discover that you don't come just saying whatever.
Yeah,
you observe, you read the room. So okay, so I can bring this, I can bring that. What about this idea? What about this? Oh, this is not Megadeth. Oh, okay, understood. Because, and then you learn. Because why are you not going to learn from a successful, like from Dave Mustaine or from the management, etc. Like take the advantage of learning from them, from experience. I think he's like maybe 15 years older than me or 12 years older than me, so more experience. Also, the fact that it's an American band, it's like a different country. Everything is different.
Yeah,
it's not only the band, the guys itself. Everything, the whole surround is different. And then with Angra, you said, I was friend of Raphael, the other Angra guitar player, since we were 17.
Wow.
So I'm still friends with them. So the main thing, I still friends with them. So I keep my relations, and as I'm still friends with the guys from Megadeth, So I try to keep my relations. I think this is important. But then I might evolve or I might want to do something else in my life, you know.
That's beautiful. That's it's. I always find it so interesting because it's. I feel like the musician's adaptability, while also being able to remain true to themselves, is a skill that's very hard to master, but one that I feel like you manage seamlessly, and that's kind of why I'm asking that.
Because the best way to be creative is to have some boundaries. When you
Interesting.
put some boundaries, you have to be creative in that square.
Oh yeah.
Right. Every time you beat, because it's very hard to create something if you have completely total freedom. So maybe you have boundaries of time. Okay, I need a song next week. So there's that pressure. Or I need a song, but that fits to that style. That, you know, Kiko, can you compose a reggae or something? That, okay, I can try. So I'm going to get into. I might be even more creative because I have a goal,
limitation.
a limitation.
Oh, that's so
that
cool.
helps a lot for creativity. Every time you try to compose an idea, it's good to, like, what do I want? I want a ballad, a happy ballad, a sad ballad, optimistic. You kind of frame a little bit,
Yeah.
and then you try,
Okay.
you
That's
know,
wonderful.
and then also time limit. Okay, I have this afternoon to come with a verse and a chorus or something, you know, and then a time limit. Everything helps for our connectivity, you know.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's first off, I'm fanboying here. You know,
Okay.
like I'm like this is for me. This isn't for you guys. This is okay. I guess I have another side to this question. So I feel like we're in an evolving world. Social media is taking over. More and more people consume music on their phones. You think it's easier or more difficult to be in a band today?
I wonder, the things that I've been thinking lately is like about the future of the bands. Because the society got to be, because of social media, so individualistic that I wonder if how people are going to get together and support each other
Interesting.
for many years, like we did many years ago, with the fights, with the, you know, and I'm talking about a relationship with another person, family relations. Everybody's individualistic, showing what they're doing, and I'm including myself, you know, showing what they're doing, you know, to the world.
Yeah.
So even the festivals, the bands, everything has to understand this shift.
That's really interesting.
Is about the person. It's not about the rock star. It's about the person. The person wants to be the rock star of the event.
Yeah.
So if you're here, so you have to do stuff for the person to feel like, you know, the element of the place. You know,
I hear you.
So I think also that the connection of people is harder. So I don't know the new bands how they're gonna be. You know, bands like, if you think about Led Zeppelin. So when the drummer died, they said no more band.
Yeah. I mean,
You know, like now, like any little thing in a band is like, oh, change the guy. You know, like that connection. Like Queen was the same when Fred Mercury passed.
They said we don't
play anymore. They took what, 20 years to come back.
Seriously.
You know, always. You know, so I think that's the question. You know,
It feels to me like there's this kind of need for instant gratification, like, and it's
As
about
well.
me. But I also realize that it might be a little bit more difficult to commit. I feel like there's more pressure on things. I mean, it's because if you're with a band for 20 years, you're married. That's a marriage.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's this kind of pressure to deliver something great, and I feel like it's also harder to carry that amongst 5 people because everyone needs to perform in a band. Your drummer can't be weak. Your
Exactly,
vocalist
yeah.
can't not be doing his thing.
I tend to disagree.
I'd love to hear it. That's
I
what I'm
tend to
wondering.
disagree because the band is not about everybody being the best. It's not like a dream team. It's not like the national team soccer.
Okay.
You know, it's not about that. The band can have a weaker
Link.
actually gives a wabi-sabi kind of imperfection to the band
Interesting.
that makes the band a band.
Interesting.
You know? Because if you look at the great bands, not everybody's like this amazing musician. Then it's, you know, I think you need that because I mean, I don't want to mention bands because I don't know them personally.
Of course.
You know, but you can feel sometimes based on documentaries or videos, okay, this guy is the leader. This guy is the composer. Sometimes the leader or the composer is not the front man. The front man is great live, is great, has a great voice, charisma, but then there's somebody composing. Maybe there's somebody producing. Maybe there's a guy that's the weaker guy, but he's the business guy. You don't
sweet.
know. Maybe there's a weaker musician, but he's the cool guy that puts all the glue together of
Yeah.
the personalities. Because when you have two alpha males, let's say, like facing for who's the best, whatever, you need to have that cool guy that, hey guys, calm down. Like,
Wow,
you need
yeah.
that guy. And sometimes that guy is not the best musician, but it's
Interesting.
like so important for the dynamics of the band, of the group. So you never know. You never know. We know some bands that it clearly is like that, have like two, main characters, and then one they think, what is this guy's doing there? But actually, he might be the guy.
The guy who
that
keeps it all running.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was, and I feel
And
like
the same for sorry.
Please.
It's the same for sports.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people are like, why this player's there? You never know if the guy is like before the game is the guy who puts everybody up.
what he's
you
doing
never
in the
know.
dressing room.
Exactly.
That's
You never know.
that's so interesting.
But the coach knows.
the coach knows.
Yeah. And then like a great player that the coach doesn't take to the game because the guy kind of destroyed the
rhythm
team,
and the chemistry.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
so interesting. But do you think of that while you're setting the band up? I mean, you're saying you knew Raphael for 17 since you were 17.
That's a characteristic that you start learning. Well, you learn by doing.
Yeah, I suppose.
So it's like, I'm not a psychologist, so you learn by doing. It's like, and then observing and also like mentoring some bands or giving lectures and stuff. You see some the repetition of the same problems, and even successful bands. Like I can't believe they're gonna do this because yeah. So also fast success. I remember in the beginning of Angra, the guy, the manager's like, they said we got gold disc in Japan for the first album,
Yeah.
right? So huge success, highlight of a new band. They said, don't go to Japan. You guys are not prepared.
Really?
And then we didn't tour in Japan the first album. We toured in Japan only in the second album. Don't go because they're gonna treat you like rock stars and you're not.
Oh wow.
And then because in Japan, like in the 90s, they would, the first time we went there, it's like, oh, this rock star vibe. And then it's like, we're not ready for that.
Wow.
And also like the concert was, our performance on stage, etc., was not in the same level as the success of the album. But nowadays they would just do
they
it.
throw you in, but
yeah.
it's such an interesting because it takes such humility to also be able to accept that. I mean, I feel like
Yeah, but then we didn't have social media. We were
Yeah.
young. It's like, okay, if this guy's saying that, he must
know
be
what he's
right.
saying.
Let's do. So like we take this as a lesson. Okay, let's do more concerts in Brazil. And then we have this mentality too. Like the best way is to learn to do it. Let's
execute.
Yeah. Actually, before we did the first Angra show, we did at least 3 or 4 Iron Maiden cover concerts just to practice.
Oh wow,
So we didn't do like our first concert with the name Angra.
that's unbelievable.
It's like let's test the waters without using the name Angra. Let's put the Iron Maiden cover, but it was the Angra band.
that's fun.
So like a cover band to practice.
What do you think were the takeaways from something like that? Because on the one hand, you want to perfect your music, you want to put your sound out, and I wouldn't argue. I mean, I understand obviously that you have a lot of influences, but I wouldn't say that you guys sound like Iron Maiden. You know what I mean? Like
No, but we have like 2 guitarists and singer. So the formation of the band, and we like the band, so it was easy to make it learn 2 songs and play.
Of course, but then the thought process is when you're doing something like this, because clearly this thing is functional. It's about achieving a certain goal.
Yeah.
And so, what would you argue that goal was in a more tangible way? It's not just about being ready, but like what did being ready look like for you?
We wanted to record a great demo.
Okay.
We were like about the songs. So to record a great demo, have like a nice band, because I have this, looking to the other international bands. Sepultura was on the rise, right? So also it was very inspiring to see, although the style was completely different, but they were like already like playing internationally and the quality was really good. It's okay. So how can we be good like this? So rehearsing more. So we're rehearsing a lot. We're rehearsing like you have to, turn the lights down and then let's see if we can play in the dark. Kind of like all those kind of things. And everybody's into being great on their instruments.
I love that.
And then the ones who are not kind of pushing,
Okay.
as well. So that's, can be dangerous when you start pushing people
Interesting.
to do what they don't really are, prepared for. But we understood the differences as well. I was very into like studying music, technical, Raphael was like about also lyric. I was never about lyrics, and he was more about lyrics. So we have this understand of different tastes and different inputs that each one could bring. So that's the power of a band. Everybody can bring a different
Something
input.
new to the table.
Yeah.
Is there anyone who you're looking at right now as a band that makes you feel like, oh, like these guys are carrying it today? I feel like
There's great bands, going. I mean, like older band.
like up and comers. It's like, is there anyone who you're like you kind of
up and comer?
You can tell me. It's
Yeah, we're just there in the studio now, and then they play Gojira. But Gojira is it's already maybe they have 20 years. They're 20
they've been
years
here for a
old.
while.
So yeah. So, but then it's like brothers. So I have like kind of followed the Pantera, Sepultura. I have like a four-piece band, or two are brothers. So that I think is a different dynamics. When I believe so. I don't know. There's like so many new bands or new artists. I think that the ones that will succeed is understand the social media, of course, right? They understand the value of each musician, each different roles in a band. Understand that. I think we have more resources. So we have the history of other previous bands with their fights, with their abuse, with this, and then it's like, let's not go to that place. There's a quick video I saw somewhere, like the Metallica guys. I think, I think they were like some sort of Grammys or something. Seeing Black Sabbath receiving a prize disconnected.
Really?
Because they're not together, and then it's like they could learn from Black Sabbath that it's not good to have such a legend and be disconnected.
Yeah.
The band is not together.
Yeah.
So I think all the newer generation, that's the humankind. We can learn from the previous. We pass along what we learned, so we can learn with Black Sabbath, with Metallica, with Megadeth's history, whatever. So Gojira, what they're doing now, have social media. So how to understand social media, new forms of selling music, making the music business going, events like this, different countries, different areas, right? It's not only Europe, US,
Yeah, you've given me so much to think about. Like, I'm gonna go home and I want to ask if we're good on time. Or if we need to, we need to go hada, and maybe we have like 5 more minutes. Okay, awesome. 1 minute, 2. Okay, well in that case, I'm gonna ask you a too big a question before that, but I'm just enjoying myself. I guess the final question I want to ask is going back to the very start of our interview, and you were saying, let's call it the podcast. You were saying something about the fact that metal was not the most accepted culturally speaking. And I resonate with that because there are a lot of areas in the Arab world where sometimes certain types of music aren't as accepted because either they don't look like us culturally or they... And I feel like you eroded along that wall along with an entire generation of musicians. And I feel like we're seeing something very similar here. Do you have any advice for people who feel like they're going against the grain and need to continue in order to do something great?
It's hard for me to give an advice because I don't know a lot from the
fair enough
the situation here, and I don't know if it's completely comparable, right? So I remember I was like 12, 13. Kids went to Brazil, and people say like, oh, they sacrifice animals. They're like from the devil, so you shouldn't listen to. So this thing, I was like, I thought it was cool, So. But you had this, some albums with like some very, very aggressive covers, or So, but my mother, my parents were cool with that, So, at my school, I was kind of,
on your own.
Yeah. Maybe I was the only long hair guy there. I remember like the principal kind of complaining. Yeah, this guy has a long hair, but he has good grades, so it's okay. It's like, so I think somehow you compensate, like being a good student, or being a polite person. You kind of break that image. You know, you might come with this like black shirt with some like weird drawing there,
But you're
like
very friendly
aggressive.
and nice to talk
and then
to.
it's like, oh, actually, this guy. I thought this guy would be, you know. So, and then sometimes, and then people also understand the dangers in other places.
Yeah.
You know, it's not in the image or it's not, you know. But I'm also like have to be careful what you say, how you address things. So I'm, you know, I have kids now, so I'm also very careful, like what to show, what not to show. So I understand that. So, but I was so in Brazil also I got the opening. So I think the 70s generation, they have like a dictatorship there. So different background, different story, but it was tougher for them. You know, whatever they want to say, they couldn't say, and I didn't. I was young there, so when I started making art, like albums, I was open.
Yeah.
You know, so it was right after. So I think there was this need, and I got this in the 90s. Brazil, not only Angra or Sepultura, but also the local music. They got this wanting to what is the Brazilian rock?
Yeah.
What is the Brazilian rock? Not the metal, but the rock in general. Is there a like, specific way? And then in the 90s, we found that way. You know, so what is the blend? You know, so how can you learn from outside, but never losing what you have, never denying the past?
That's
you know,
that's
and then what's that combination that you have to fight to discover, and you might take generations. You know, not generations, like 10 years. You know, generation of a band, one try is too much, it's too early. You know, so it might be the next. You never know, kind of like a metal Saudi metal band with like with all the percussion, all the all the typical instruments.
Yeah,
you know, the oud, like there's like a very interesting band, The Who. They're from Mongolia, and they have those traditional instruments and the chant, and then it's super cool the way they dress and they play heavy music, and they're everywhere in the big festivals because people want to see them.
And it's them.
It can be a great reference. I did a tour with them. They do speak English.
Beautiful.
Like they don't speak English. They don't know. It just they're like really into the culture. Some guys they're like very traditional, great musicians. But then they do the metal, as well. And then everybody wants to see them because Mongolia music with metal. This is like so And then they're playing all the festivals in Europe, in the US. We did a tour together, and it's amazing. It's like when you mix things, and that's the best way to be proud of your culture as well.
By bringing it into the world.
Exactly.
What a beautiful way to end this note. Thank you so much for your time, and it was a pleasure, and your insight. Thank you guys. This is Kiko.
Amazing.